All right, welcome, Ben.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I just want to start out with a little bit of like where you grew up, how it was, and where you went to school, how that, how you ended up on the career path you're at, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So I'm from Sandy, Utah,
Okay.
and I was there for my essentially my entire life. We moved around a couple of different places before I was 5, but that's all I can remember is being in Sandy. And so I come from a family of 9 kids, so a good Mormon family. Number 5 out of all of those kids, and so I've got 2 older siblings who are mentally handicapped, and so that was an interesting, twist in our lives, and it's been a great blessing. Really, they're fantastic. Love them, and my family is mainly still in the Utah area. I have one sister who's in Austin, Texas, and my wife and myself, we've moved around all over the place, but now we've come back to Utah. So, I went to Jordan High School back in the days. I was a beat digger, which everybody loves that mascot.
Yeah.
Never really thought much of it at the time. I just thought it was really cool until everybody started laughing at me.
Sure. Yeah.
But no, it's fine. So I really enjoyed my time there, mainly because of sports. So when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time playing sports. We were always outside playing football, baseball, basketball. Um, we played a lot of. I played high school football and had a coach who's very disciplined, and we learned a lot of discipline and hard work from playing football back in the days. Didn't really have any desire to do anything more than be an NFL football player back in the days.
Sure. Yeah.
But here we are. So I'm not in the NFL, never played, but did learn a lot of valuable things there. Always had a desire to go serve a mission as well. So I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints, and I spent 2 years in Mexico. It's fantastic. I really just can't put it into words in a
Hmm.
couple of minutes in this interview how impactful that was for me and how beautiful the experience was. Just absolutely amazing. And what's better now? I have a daughter who's getting ready to serve a mission, so
Sweet.
super excited for that. Like I just been thinking about my time there, and it was just so wonderful to get to know the people and to make such a difference in people's lives, or to see the gospel really make a difference in their life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway, I came home from the mission and started up at college. So I went to UVU for a quarter, ended up at BYU, Idaho, and graduated from there. Went to BYU in Provo after that. And I made it all the way through BYU Provo without getting married, which is a
Wow.
little claim
Yeah,
to
that's,
fame
that's impressive.
to make it all the way through there. But yeah, so after that, after I graduated, I got invited to a waffle party in there. I saw a beautiful, tall, brown haired woman standing at the oven making some of her mother's fudge for a waffle party, which you would only ever find in Provo, I'm sure.
That's
And
impressive.
yeah, and so she saw me, I saw her, we kind of met up in the middle and started talking, and she said it felt like we were talking forever. To me, it just went by really fast. It was a strong attraction right from the get-go, and so I didn't get her phone number right off the bat, but we came back around, and I got it from one of my friends, and we went on one date, and after that was history. We have spent essentially every day of our lives together after that, except for short breaks here and there.
Sure.
But
So when you initially went into college, were you going to be a doctor?
no, I wasn't going to be a doctor necessarily. The thought had crossed my mind. Like I thought that perhaps I would, because I had an affinity for that kind of a thing. Like I was interested in anatomy and physiology from high school.
Hmm.
Had a propensity for that, and so I thought perhaps I could go into some healthcare related field. I actually decided to be a microbiology major, and I thought I could maybe make that work as a career. It was I did actually work a job as a microbiologist for a couple of months. I worked at ARUP in Salt Lake City. It's
Hmm.
a reference laboratory, and I just stayed back in this room all by myself, pouring through samples, and
Yeah.
it wasn't super exciting, and just wasn't really satisfied with it. and just my personality. A lot of people worked there and loved it. It's just I didn't enjoy it. So I had this thought in the back of my mind that I wanted to be a doctor, but I didn't want to have the lifestyle because you hear about how hard it is on families and how kids don't get to know their dad and like they just miss out on a lot with their families. So I put that on the back burner. I thought maybe I'd be a physical therapist, and then I got married and I was kind of in that zone. And I applied to physical therapy school, but didn't get in. I applied too late. And so, I was just praying about it because I just wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing. And, one day I felt inspired that I should be a physician. And so I felt like it was the right time. And I told my wife, and she's like, no, I don't want you to be a doctor. I want to see you. I want to be with you. And so, so we applied to medical school at that point and got into multiple different ones. Ended up going to a medical school in Missouri.
Okay. So
we started off in Kirksville, Missouri, which is in northern Missouri, right by the border with Iowa. Mm-hmm. And they... it's like right in between Adirondack and Nauvoo. We were in the Nauvoo stake.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it was really cool for church history, as well as like it was a nice community. A lot of people from Utah and other LDS families were there, so it was kind of good for my family as well. And so we went from there essentially backwards along the Mormon Trail. We ended up in residency in Cleveland, which was right there by Kirksville.
Sure.
Or Kirksville, sorry, Kirtland.
Yeah.
So we were there, which was another fantastic place, very spiritual place. Like I was impressed when we first went there. Like the spirit was pretty strong. But anyway, I did my residency there, and that was back in 2010 that I started that.
Okay.
So
great.
It's kind of how the progression went from early life through getting into medical school and residency.
Yeah, great. And so then after residency, you came back to Utah and had a practice here, or?
So no, we actually stayed outside of the state for quite a while. So we did a couple of rotation years from 2008 to 2010 in Utah. But after that, we didn't come back until just July.
Oh, okay.
So July of last year. So it's been 15 years that we've been in the state. Yeah. So I've been all over the place. We started off in residency in Cleveland. And then after I graduated from residency, I did 2 years at a local hospital there in the Cleveland area. Mm-hmm. Then we moved to Las Vegas, and they had a big system there where I worked at 8 different facilities in the Las Vegas area. We went from Las Vegas to Georgia. We were in Georgia most recently for the last 5 years. And then we decided to move here because family's getting a little older and they needed some help and have some health issues. And we wanted to kind of be around for that part of life. We wanted to.
Georgia were you in?
So we were in Carrollton, Georgia. It's just outside of Atlanta. It's about 45 minutes from the border with Alabama.
Great. Yeah, we spent some time in Augustus.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, where they have the Masters.
Yeah. But we were there for military reasons, but yeah, great place. I like Georgia. It was fun.
I really love Georgia as well. Like honestly, I didn't want to move. I was happy to be there, but we felt like it was important to be with family.
Yeah, I get that. And I actually I feel like I'm hearing that more often. It could just be that I'm becoming older, and so the people that I know are becoming older, which means their parents and family are getting older. So they're kind of like, maybe we should help out family. Mm-hmm. Like I'm getting to that point in my life. And so I feel like I see it a lot more though, where people are like, I'm going to move back to where my family's at and try and help out. Yeah. So it's been good though. It's good to see. Mm-hmm. My sister-in-law just graduated from her residency, and she was in California and moved back to Utah. So yeah, very similar.
Okay.
Wanted to be close to people and stuff. So, but so did you have a specialty that you do, or are you just a general practitioner?
Emergency medicine.
Emergency medicine.
Yeah. So I did my training from 2010 to 14 in emergency medicine. And that's what I've been doing essentially for the most part up until about the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Wow.
So I'm still doing emergency medicine, and I still work in the emergency department. I travel back and forth right now between Georgia and Utah.
Okay.
But I'm opening up a clinic in Ephraim, most likely in Ephraim. We found a place, and we're going to try to open up in March, April to do functional medicine.
Great. What took you to emergency medicine?
Emergency medicine? Well, to be honest with you, I just really enjoyed being in the emergency department when I was doing my rotations. So rotations are part of medical school. The second half, you get to kind of experience things outside of the classroom for the first time. So you get to go into different settings. And one of those for me was the emergency department. And it was really interesting and engaging. And there were, procedures that you got to do. And it really felt like you were making a difference in people's lives. Like they're coming in critical condition oftentimes, or in some kind of in need in the moment. And so it really felt like you could jump in and do some good and really help some people out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my mom worked in the hospital. She was a lab tech. And so I'm very familiar with that atmosphere. Obviously I'm not a medically trained person, but to see like the different regions of medicine, I always felt like the emergency people were like the like adrenaline junkies kind of, and I kind of fit in with that a little bit because I do a lot of stuff, with my family and things that people consider adrenaline junkie stuff. So I'm like, it's got to be kind of fast paced because you never know when things are going to pick up or when they're going to die down. And then but it sounds fun because you're getting such a mix of things that are wrong, and you have to have kind of like that instant gut feeling and move forward with what you anticipate the issue is based off of your knowledge. And so I think it'd be interesting, and a lot of fun to do something like that.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of variety, and like you said, you never know what's coming through the door. It might be something totally benign, it might be something that looks benign but that's actually really serious.
Right.
And so you do have to work in the gray initially, and you're the person who's kind of paving the trail for everybody else.
Right.
So it's been a great career in a lot of ways. It does take me away from family more than I would like. I hadn't thought about the need to work more in the afternoons because most of the volume comes through the emergency department in the afternoon, but that's when your kids get home from school. And so, it was kind of a weird timing. Ended up working nights in Georgia because of that, because if I worked nights, then I could be awake in the afternoon when the kids are home.
Sure. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's probably the biggest downside of that would be like you're going to be on some sort of a call schedule or some kind of a 24-hour schedule.
Yeah.
And that can be really hard for both you and the family.
Yeah.
Even doing graveyards. I've done graveyards for a few years, and it was enough that I'm like, it's not great going back and forth between day shift and graveyard all the time.
Right. Yeah. It's hard on your body. It really does take a toll. People who work nights tend to live shorter lives.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So I did graveyards at the coal mine up here and by Schofield. And one of the interesting statistics that came out of that I kind of stuck with me when I left was on a graveyard shift, we did 3 12-hour shifts. Well, 13 or 3rd-hour shifts is what our rotation was. And they did a bunch of studies with graveyards. And I think this was in Australia when they were doing it with mining specifically. And they said that after the initial 8 hours of a graveyard shift, it didn't matter how many more hours or how many days you slept during the day. You never had the same like cognitive ability and motor skill ability that you did when you started. Like you can't get it back until you go to sleep and sleep a regular day.
Yeah.
And then you can recuperate, But I thought that was interesting because, I mean, I did graveyards all the time, and I never felt like it really affected me until I got older and older. And then as I got older, I'm like, I'm starting to have to sleep before I do stuff, and I'm, taking more time when I'm sleeping.
Yeah. When you're young, you've got a lot of reserves, and so you can do a lot of crazy stuff. But it does catch up with you as you get older. You don't have all the youth and vitality that you used to have. Yeah. That's true. It was definitely an adventure, and I could tell that it was wearing on me after a while. And so I actually have just switched back off of nights and working days, which is fantastic. I feel like I'm coming alive again.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be traveling to a different state from your family, you just as well work the best schedule. So I get
absolutely.
That. So you're switching out of emergency and you're going into a clinic setting, which is going to be more like a general practitioner, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So a functional medicine doctor isn't necessarily a family practice doctor. They do mainly deal with inflammation. So that's kind of its own little specialty. The reason this has come about is because, as most people have experienced, that there is a huge wave of chronic illness that's coming across the country, and it's really been coming on over the last, decade or two. And more you see more and more children are being diagnosed with diabetes, which you never saw that, like 40 years ago or something. You'd never see, chubby kids who are getting diagnosed with diabetes type 2. Younger, they're getting all these autoimmune diseases. People are living with these autoimmune diseases. You got rheumatoid arthritis and MS and, all sorts of problems. And where these used to be kind of rare things, back in the early 1900s, now they are very commonplace. Yeah. And medicine really has not caught up on that curve. Like the general everyday doctor, family practice doctor, unless they're actually really digging into the research or looking kind of more into alternative areas, they're not really prepared to take care of these chronic conditions. I mean, they can essentially put Band-Aids on it, but they're not really making anybody better per se.
A lot of time you see it's just people addressing the symptoms, not looking for the cause of what's actually going on in the body.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm not trying to knock on, the doctors in the area or whatnot, or my colleagues per se. It's just that there's a need there. There's something that's missing. And the functional medicine doctors have really stepped in to fill that need. Most of the time people walk into the office, and this is just how you receive your training as a general practitioner or, internist or whatever. You have 8 minutes to be with a patient, essentially, because you're living in corporate medicine. So they want to make sure that you're seeing as many patients as possible in a short amount of time as possible so they can maximize their profits. Yeah. And, because the government has made it so challenging for doctors to be in a solo group, like to own their actual practice, then you have to kind of morph and you have to get into these big corporate medicine groups. Yeah. And so they're the ones who are driving this need to make a lot of money. And along with that comes these short doctor visits where the doctor spends a couple minutes with you, only has time to give you a prescription for your blood pressure, and then you're out the door. So they don't talk about, well, let's see what caused your blood pressure in the first place, what changed, what may have triggered this, and how can we address that?
What's your current lifestyle like?
Yeah, exactly. And so, then every doctor knows. If you went in and talked to them, they'd say that the underlying issues related to blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease is going to be your diet, exercise, sleep, social support, and stress reduction. So that's something very basic that every family practice doctor out there would tell you. But how much time do we actually spend on diet, exercise, sleep, social support, and stress reduction? It's very little, if anything at all. They may say, well, why don't you eat a Mediterranean diet, and you're out the door. But you have very little education. Patients, people just need some help getting, figuring out what is the best lifestyle, what is the best way to get sleep if you're not sleeping well. They'll throw another medication at you to sleep, and then you're taking a medication for your blood pressure, for your diabetes. You're taking like 15 different medications, and if you've ever watched
medication to fix the medication, the side effects.
Right, exactly. And if you watch the commercial for a pharmaceutical, that 20 seconds is about how wonderful it is, and then the rest of the minute is about like, well, you might experience this, that, and the other thing. And so, if you're taking 20 of those and you've got all those side effects to manage, I mean, some people come into the emergency department and they look like they're zombies, and they're on 20 different medicines. If you gotta get people off those medicines, they have their own side effects. It's another toxic load for your liver. I mean, there's all sorts of issues related to just taking all the medicines. Sure. So, but we're just putting Band-Aids on these medical problems, and we're not taking care of the underlying issues. Yeah. So,
did you become trained in this? Like, how did you go from an emergency doctor to a functional doctor? Right.
Functional medicine doctor. Yeah. So the way that this happened was I had to experience kind of a crisis in my own life and my own family. My wife, she started having a lot of medical problems. So when I was in residency, she, after our third daughter was born, she had all these health problems. So they just kind of popped out of nowhere. And so she had seizures that we didn't know were seizures at the time. She was just passing out, and we would go to the emergency department multiple times for this. And then she had what you call a spontaneous coronary artery dissection. So essentially, one of the arteries around the heart, there's layers in the artery, and the layers were peeling apart, and it was causing her to have a heart attack. And so we didn't figure this out right away, but we got her into the emergency department. They had to put a stent in, and she had to be on some medications and whatnot for that. And, the cardiologist wanted to put her on a statin. She's like, well, my cholesterol's fine. I don't have any problem with my cholesterol. But he's like, well, I just think you should do it. And, based on some stuff that I saw in literature, it could be helpful. And she's like, I really don't want to do that. And so over time, we just really noticed, other than, taking care of the coronary artery dissection, really she wasn't seeing a lot of progress. I mean, she was dealing with a lot of pain in her back and her legs, and it felt kind of like sciatica that she had after an accident earlier in life. And so she was getting to the point where she was very disabled, like couldn't even really she couldn't stand up unless I was helping her. So, she finally relented. We went to see a neurologist. They said that, oh, by the way, you have MS. And yeah, so, I see people come into the emergency department with MS sometimes, and they have contractures, and they're in a lot of pain, and they have muscle spasms, and they can't walk. And sometimes they have to put a tube in their bladder directly through the skin into the bladder because they can't urinate well. And so they have all these problems, and because they're in bed, they have bed sores, and it's just a cascade of things. It's a kind of a slow, can be a slow, miserable death. Yeah. And so most people with MS will die after about 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so she was diagnosed back in 2015. And, I'm like, honey, you got to get in and see a neurologist. You got to get this taken care of. And she's like, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to do it? Are you serious? And so I was like, well, what are you going to do? And she's like, I don't know. I'm going to do it my own way. And so she prayed about it, and she's like, God, tell me what I'm supposed to do here. And, if you teach me what to do, I'll do whatever you ask me to. And, I'll dedicate my life to serving you and others. And so she did this, and she started to get inspiration. She started off, first of all, doing some tapping, like she would kind of tap on a body part and express gratitude for it. So really it's kind of a mindset thing, like changing, because she had kind of an antagonistic perspective towards her body. She's like, I feel really depressed, and I hate my body. It's caused me a lot of pain. This is kind of more of a, understandably, kind of more of a bitter, resentful attitude towards the body, which I think a lot of people could empathize with.
Yeah, if you don't know what's going on, it just becomes frustration and confusion, and that becomes problematic, which will lead to more stress, which will cause more problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You get the chronic disease, and it's limiting what you can do in your life, and it just feels like you're living in a prison, essentially. Mm-hmm. So that's where she was. In fact, it got so bad one point that she couldn't even come downstairs for our kid's birthday party. Like all she had to do is come down the stairs and spend some time with her, just sing happy birthday and whatnot, but she couldn't do it. And so, she hit that low, and she just knew that she had to do something. And so that's when she started praying for inspiration and started doing the tapping, and she started doing probiotic, and she started making some dietary changes. And just as she was starting to make some changes, we decided we needed to move to Las Vegas. And so we were in Ohio at the time, and like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of stress, and moving as hard as it is. So we packed up, and the kids and my wife, she went to Las Vegas, and I had to kind of wrap some stuff up in Ohio. I had to finish a few shifts. We had to get the house ready to sell. And so I was really nervous because I was running around the house. I was picking up the kids and handing them to her. I was like changing all the diapers. I was making all the meals. I mean, I was doing everything around the house, trying to make it as easy on her as possible. Because anytime she bent down to do anything, it would cause her pain. Sure. So she went to Las Vegas, and I'm in Ohio just praying and, cross my fingers. And so after a week, I went to Las Vegas, and the house was clean. The baby's diapers were all changed. Kids had made it to school. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, how did this happen? You know, you hadn't seen the neurologist, you're not taking medication. Like, how did you do this? Right. And so she started telling me like a bunch of other things that she was doing. And I was like, wow, you know, that's amazing. How did that actually cause this great of an effect where you could actually function in life? Right. And so I started digging into it, and I realized that what she was doing was actually very in line with functional medicine. And so I started digging into a lot of functional medicine, getting training from different, places where you get training for that kind of thing, reading a lot of books, reading a lot of studies, and started implementing some more things with Tami. That's my wife. Mm-hmm. And so she started to see more and more improvement. And we moved to Georgia after Las Vegas. And while we were there, one day we were in the kitchen just talking, and she said, you know what? I think I've had a headache for the last 10 years. And I just didn't realize it. Like, I feel so good now. It's amazing. Like, when I was feeling bad, I didn't realize how bad I'd felt. It's like she just kind of lost that awareness. It's kind of, yeah. So, anyway, so she lost a lot of weight, and she was feeling great. She was playing tennis, active, and she was very functional. So she got her life back. Yeah. And you know, that means a lot to us. Like our daughter, when she was really sick, she brought up a note to the room. She said, Mom, when are you going to come play with me? You know, she couldn't do that kind of stuff because she was just too sick. It was too hard. So now she was able to do that. She could go spend time with the kids. She was running them around for their birthdays, and she, was happy. It was nice to see a smile on her face, and that she wasn't just frustrated and constantly down and depressed. So we really wanted to bring this to other people, and because we know it made such a difference in our lives, we wanted to make a big difference in other people's lives as well. Yeah. And so we started working with a few people in the early stages. We got a couple of groups together in a kind of more of a coaching program. Mm-hmm. And we saw amazing results there. We had people who had arthritis. They could barely walk. They had, weight problems and kidney problems, blood pressure issues, gastrointestinal problems, MS as well, another person with MS. And we saw, brain fog go away, neurologic improvement. We saw kidney function go backwards. Like if you're a doctor, you see it like a normal progression for somebody with kidney diseases. It just gets worse and worse and worse until you're on dialysis or you die before you get to dialysis. But it doesn't go backwards. And we saw one of our clients, she actually started to go backwards. Like her kidneys started to heal. Yeah. So sweet. Yeah. And we're like, that's awesome. Yeah. No, you don't see it. And she was able to, like, just by changing her diet and taking supplements at this point, we weren't prescribing medications or anything. It was just a coaching program. And so she, she noticed her arthritis went away, and she actually was able to ride a bike, which she missed doing. She hadn't been doing that for, decades. And so she lost a bunch of weight. One of our people lost like 60 pounds or something like that. Just quite a bit. And, it wasn't the focus, but once you start to get healthy and your inflammation levels go down, you just naturally lose the weight. It just comes off. Yeah,
I completely agree.
So, somebody just even after a week of being on the program, they cut their blood pressure medicine in half. So we had like some amazing results, and we really were excited to roll that out. But then we had some kind of family issues come up, and we dropped it for a little while, and now we're picking it back up. Gotcha. So we're really ready to rev it up and to roll it forward. And traveling outside of the state for me is not fun. I don't enjoy being away from my family for that time. Yeah. And so I'm really motivated to stay here in town and want to get this office open and going. And so we've got a location in Ephraim that we haven't signed on yet, so I hesitate to throw it out there, but it's just over there by Walmart is where we're looking. Great. And so we're excited. We're going to get that open, and it's going to be a concierge model. So I'd like to try to cut insurance out of the equation, because the insurance companies try to step in and they'll tell you, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. And
they'll limit everything that you want to do, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to do certain things that you don't want to do.
Right. And so I'd rather cut them out of the equation. And that's another reason why we have the corporate medicine as well, where you get the eight minute visits.
Yeah.
So but by doing a cash only practice, then we can dedicate time to people so that they can get the care that they need and want, and, that I want to give them. And I know there's a lot of other doctors out there who want to give good care as well, but they just don't.
Sure.
They're roped into the system. But that's ideally how things will work, as we can do this cash system and have people come in and, we can have like an hour-long visit because we're doing it outside the system.
Sure. What are you seeing is like, it's hard to say like a singular thing, but what are you seeing are the big things that are causing this inflammation and just the systematic issues that people are having?
Mm-hmm. Well, really it comes down to the environment. But it's kind of there's a little bit to it. We can try to simplify things, but things in the environment come into the body by various means. The most common thing is going to be through the mouth. So when your body has various defenses that protect itself from the environment and even just foods that we eat, but also we're getting herbicides and pesticides and hormones and antibiotics and heavy metals. There's all this stuff that's out there in the environment that's damaging our systems that protect ourselves. And then it goes down to the intestines where our microbiome are, and the microbiome is damaged by all these toxins as well. So then the bad microbes can grow. So you've got bad microbes, you've got environmental toxins. They damage the lining of the intestine. So then the lining of the intestine is about 1 cell thick, which is very thin.
Yeah.
And it's very effective at what it does. So it limits what can pass through there to very small molecules, just essentially to nutrients. And about 70 to 80% of your immune system stands guard there at the border of the, between the septic tank inside the intestines and the clean environment inside your body. And so once there's damage to the lining of the intestine, then you can see larger particles coming through, and your immune system's like, what is this stuff? This kind of looks like the nerves, and it starts kind of confusing things. It gets confused by what it sees coming across there. It's in charge of keeping the body safe, and so it'll start to attack the body instead. Because for example, in MS, there are things on like potatoes and tomatoes, nightshade vegetables called aquaporins. These aquaporins in the food look just like aquaporins that are on your nerve cells, on the myelin sheath. And so the idea is that it sees the aquaporin there, and then it goes and attacks the aquaporin on your myelin sheath, and what causes MS.
Gotcha. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So essentially, the environment plays a big role in this. And the environment that we live in now is very different than it was even 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Substantially.
Yeah. Yeah. So even 100 years ago, they did a study on the soil, and they found then that the soil was depleted of nutrients because of farming practices. And so over time, that's kind of gotten worse and worse. You introduce glyphosate that's destroying the microbiome in the dirt. It's destroying like the natural process that delivers nutrients from the soil to the plants. So the plants that we're eating aren't as nutritious. I'm trying to say they're not as full of nutrition, and as a result, we don't get the nutrition that we need in order to be healthy.
Yeah, even though you're eating the amount that you are supposed to eat of something, you're not necessarily getting all of the micronutrients specifically.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, exactly. So you're not getting all the micronutrients that you need, all the phytonutrients, and everything else that comes in the plants that for thousands of years have been keeping people healthy, which is why we're seeing this wave now of chronic illness, because we don't have. Not only are we fighting off all these toxins, but our body doesn't have the resources to fight them off anymore. Yeah.
Interesting. What do you feel like exercise plays a part in this?
Oh, exercise is huge. Exercise is really important for generating hormones and whatnot that help your brain to grow, for neurons to regenerate. It's important, like the muscle mass that you have is actually the greatest predictor of longevity. So the muscles, they essentially also burn off a lot of glucose and glycogen. So your body stores extra energy that you consume in the muscles so that it's ready to use when you need to run and get up and do something. So after that glycogen will last for a few hours, but then it'll run out. Um, what happens oftentimes with people who have diabetes type 2 is they have too much sugar that builds up over time. So that's why eventually it pours into the bloodstream and you can measure that. But for years prior to that, it's been building up in different places. Your body's been trying to stuff it in every little nook and cranny so that it doesn't spill out into the blood.
Right, yeah.
And so because once it gets in the blood, then you have all sorts of metabolic problems that occur that cause, it can be life-threatening. So what happens when you exercise is you're constantly clearing out that glycogen. So the glucose isn't building up and spilling over into the blood and messing up proteins and other things in your body. You're clearing that out so that it has a place to go, essentially, which is actually very important for your health.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we exercise regularly as a family, and to us, it's everything. It's so many benefits, not just the ones you've listed, but like your mood is better, you feel better throughout the day, you have more energy, you're more sustained.
Yeah, it helps your mitochondria function better, burns cleaner fuel. It also allows like you said, your brain. It's compared to antidepressive medication like SSRIs, Zoloft and whatnot. Exercise is actually just as effective, if not more effective.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And there's a lot of people who don't see that, but I think it's just because they don't have the experience of exercising regularly to know, that it can be that effective. But I mean, when I was in the military and I was working on people who worked out every day, you saw a lot less of those issues, They weren't gone because not everyone works out and not everyone works out hard, but it helps a lot.
Yeah, no, it's huge. So. Everything we can do to optimize our body's function is going to be really important. And so that's why addressing all the 5 factors that medicine has known for a long time is important for preventing disease and keeping your body healthy. You have to optimize all those. So the exercise is critical. And really, most people don't even exercise a half an hour a day.
Yeah. I saw a statistic. Well, it wasn't a statistic, but I saw somebody talking about sitting, and they said that sitting at a desk is the new smoking. Like it's that hard on your body, and it's hard because even I have a job where I sit the majority of the day, and so I have to get up and exercise, but it makes it that much harder to want to get up and do things, and then it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's my least favorite thing about this job. Like I would rather do this, but in a situation where I have to walk around and go talk to people and stuff, but it just isn't necessary. Yeah,
really, for thousands of years, people were working out in the fields, so they couldn't push a button and have the fields get plowed, Right, yeah. So like with us, I mean, we could essentially almost sit on the couch the entire day. Like you could sit there and watch TV. You could have somebody Uber Eats bring you food to your house. I mean, you don't have to do anything. You can work on your computer. Yeah, exactly. So, but so what we do throughout the day is so limited compared to what we used to do and what our bodies are designed to do. And so it's really important where people just had that level of activity naturally because of their work, 100, 200 years ago. Now we've really got to make a concerted effort to get our exercise in every day. And so weightlifting is very important. Being the strongest predictor of our longevity, it's really important for people of all ages, even if they're old, to get out there, lift weights heavy. So that you're, burning out your muscles, so that you're fatigued, is what I mean by that. And so then not only that, but it's important to do aerobic exercise. It's important to do agility exercises. Women who are in their 70s, 80s, even men too, once they fall and break their hip, they have a 50% chance of dying in the next year.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Crazy. Yeah. So keeping yourself away from that point where you have enough agility to keep your balance, enough strength to keep it. Exercising will increase the density of your bone as well. So it prevents osteopenia, osteoporosis. So if you do fall, at least you're not going to break something, hopefully. So
my wife's a personal trainer. We talk about it all the time, and we're like, everyone should be lifting weights, even if you're old.
Yeah.
Like it's healthy and it's going to be good for you.
Yeah. Yep. You can't just get out and go for a walk. I mean, that is good.
Yeah.
If you do that, it's fantastic. Wouldn't want to take that away from anybody, but you do need to get some weights involved, do some heavy lifting. Yeah.
Yeah. How much? So we kind of talked about like the situation we find ourselves in as a culture and a species right now in this time. How much do you think it plays into like just the fact that we are so relaxed? I feel like this is the issue with everything in this world right now, not just medically, but socially and everything. Like our life is so simple and easy that you don't have any like push to keep you safe, push to, fight for your food, or, I like beyond just the work of going out into the fields and going and hunting and things like that. I feel like having that like need to survive is almost gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's affecting the culture in massive amounts, right now, because we thrive off of that like desire of having something that's dramatic going on as a species, but we can't get it because we're not getting chased by a bear through the mountains as we're hunting for our food, or we're not rushing to get our plow in the field because it's going to rain or whatever. We don't have that like need to drive to it's like almost like we don't regularly adrenaline rush. We don't regularly like feel pressure that's good pressure. We just feel like this negative pressure. And I feel like that's causing this issue of just mass social and mental problems.
Yeah. No, I do think that is a big part of it. Really, like our whole economic system almost brings us into like a slavery in a way. Yeah. We're almost kind of more like, I don't know, at certain times in the past, I've thought that, because we're taken care of so much to some degree, especially people who live off of the government or whatnot, they're almost, denigrated to the point of a zoo animal or something where if you put them out in the wild, they're not going to be able to survive.
Yeah.
And so it's so important for us to feel more of that urgency, to not be under the wing of the government or whatever else. We have to go out and struggle and face the challenges of life. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. What do you think? So what do you think about like the American diet up to this year? And then what do you think about what RFK Jr. just implemented?
So, yeah, I really love what RFK Jr. did. But the diet, oh man, the diet is horrendous. And the American diet is so bad, it's earned the title of the standard American diet, which is sad. Yeah, exactly. The sad diet.
And it lives up to it.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And so we've gone from eating plants that grew in the ground, had microbes and whatnot, and nutrients and minerals, and we put our hands in the dirt, and we were grounding ourselves there. And we've shifted away from that to somebody else doing our food, and we've gone to these factory farms where the idea is to produce as much as possible, which on the surface sounds like a really good idea, but how are you producing more? You're getting these GMO foods that are genetically modified. Your body doesn't know what to do with that. It takes your body a long time, like thousands and thousands of years, really. Well, not your body, but our bodies, human bodies, to adjust to new chemicals and whatnot, oftentimes. And so the genetically modified, why? So you can put pesticides, herbicides on it, and it won't kill the plant. But those still get passed along to us, and then we're putting that stuff in our body. So there's fast food, we've got all these highly processed foods. All these things are just huge inflammatory foods. There's a lot of seed oils that they fry, your French fries in or whatever. The seed oils are high in omega-6 fatty acids, which cause inflammation. They kind of belong on a seesaw with your omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory. So you still need omega-6s, but you got to have them in the right balance, and we're way out of balance. So that's causing a lot of chronic illnesses as well. But yes, the diet in general is essentially poisoning us as a people. And it really started to change back in the 80s. I mean, besides the fast food, but back in the 80s, they made a change where they said that fats are bad. Mm-hmm. And so
saturated fat was the enemy.
Yeah, saturated fat, exactly. And so everybody started making these fat-free things. And what are you going to replace the fat with? Carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So when did the obesity epidemic start? About the same time, huh? It makes you wonder if there's some kind of connection there. Is the obesity related to too many carbohydrates? Which I think that it is in my personal opinion, but it's not simply the carbohydrates. I think that there's also, at the same time, if you look over the past 40 years, there's about, don't quote me on this exactly, but there's about 100,000 new chemicals in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, you can't like say all carbs are the enemy, because there's a lot of carbs that are really good for us. And I mean, it says like in the scriptures and stuff, like it talks, we're supposed to use carbs of some variety.
Yeah.
But man, the amount that we use that's in our diet and the type that we use that's in our diet right now are not the amounts and types that we should be using for the most part.
Yeah. So we have a lot of refined carbohydrates, so a lot of sugar. So sugar is not a natural thing. You can't find sugar on trees. It's sugar comes with fiber usually. So you put the two together, and you get fruit for the most part, or like vegetables, and much lower portions of sugar. But the fiber really helps your body to bring that sugar in more slowly. So when we eat table sugar or refined carbohydrates, it spikes our blood glucose quickly. And that our body does not do well when the blood glucose gets spiked quickly. So adding the fiber in there slows that process down, so that it comes across in a means that your body can handle.
Yeah. So what do you think about RFK's new stuff?
So RFK, yeah, I really like it. Essentially, oh man, the last one was terrible. Like they actually had on there that it was Reese's peanut butter cup cereal was more healthy for you than an egg. It's like, gosh, how much money did they have to pay for that advertisement? I mean, that's all it was, is an advertisement. It wasn't any real health advice. And so now I think RFK he's done a fantastic job. He's putting things in the right proportions, healthy, focus on healthy fats, reducing carbohydrates, and, having a healthy portion of meat. I honestly agree with pretty much everything that's in the food plan, the way he's laid it out.
Yeah, it seems like it's addressing a lot more the way we should be addressing things than what we have been for years. The food pyramid was crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
just crazy.
Yeah. Oh man, you can't really explain this stuff because it's not that they're stupid. It's,
right.
And so if they're not stupid, then what are they doing? It's because they're making money on this thing somehow. Right. And unfortunately, I think a lot of our problems come down to corruption. Yeah. And so we have these few people who are in charge of disseminating all this medical information, protocols, and they're easily influenced by money and power. Yeah. So that's why we had to
control the power or the money to everyone else for what they're researching and what they're saying and things and stuff. And if you say the wrong things, they can say, we don't want to pay that. We're going to take that money away from you for researching this thing.
Yeah, exactly. So. And even with dietitians, I was at a school. I was at a university, and there they had like all these Coke machines all over the university, and I'm like, I wonder how this university is getting their money. Do you think maybe Coca-Cola would have an interest in educating these new dietitians? There's a lot of unfortunately a lot of corruption that comes in. Yeah. So that's what Benjamin Franklin tried to warn us against, right? You get power and money in the same place. That's bad. You don't want that.
Yeah, I agree. Is there like a food group, and this is going outside of, like, let's just say Whole Foods. Is there a whole food group that you feel like you should just cut out?
Well, I don't necessarily feel like it's important to focus in on one food group more than another. It's good to have a balance, and we need the nutrients from all foods, really, as natural foods, that is. Yeah. Really, if you were going to focus in on one thing, I would say cruciferous vegetables are probably the most important type of food to eat more of. Like if you look at the Aborigines, because people look at the Aborigines because it's more like a paleo diet, is what you assume, or somebody who lived 1,000 years ago. What were they eating? And they didn't really have, as far as we can tell, a lot of autoimmune diseases like we have today. And so the idea is that it's more ideal for our bodies to eat how we've eaten for thousands of years. And so they look at the Aborigines as the model of that paleo diet. And these Aborigines that have been studied are eating like 120 grams of fiber a day. And so how much do we eat in our society as part of the standard American diet? Yeah, about 5 to 10 grams of fiber a day. And so we are really depleted on fiber, and fiber feeds the microbes in our intestine, the healthy microbes. People probably really don't realize the extent our microbiome plays in our health. The microbes in our intestines, they produce neurotransmitters. They produce vitamins. They produce all sorts of chemical signals that communicate with different parts of the body. They essentially are an essential organ for our body. And there's more microbes in your intestine than cells in your body. Yeah. So they all perform a very important role. There are some bad actors in there, and if you don't keep them in check, they can cause problems. But for the most part, they're essential, and we're starving them because they're not getting what they need to survive. They're not getting the fiber that they need. So this fiber also is important for detoxification because the fiber carries out all the toxins into the stool. So we've gone from 120 that our bodies are needing down to 10, and we're having all these problems. And, it's one part of the puzzle. It's one of the things that are taking us down. And our body has a lot of redundant systems, and it takes a lot to take it down. But if you start taking away at these things one thing at a time, then you start to experience more and more medical problems.
Yeah. So like if someone were to be living the American standard diet for an extended period of time, like let's say 10 years, they're like a 25-year-old pretty much raised on just whatever Americans eat the whole time. And they come to you saying they have issues. How long does it take from changing diet to see a change in their microbiome to where that can be repaired?
Really, you start to see changes right away. Like your microbes, I was a microbiology major. It was one of the things I learned, that if you wanted to grow out a certain kind of microbe, then you had to have the right nutrient to grow that bacteria out. And having, predominance of that nutrient for that microbe excluded other microbes from growing. It gave them a competitive advantage. And, it's essentially a big zoo down in your intestines. Like there's an equilibrium that is reached between the microbes, but they're all kind of vying for their own territory. Yeah. And so once you feed the microbes what they need, then they will start to flourish. So whether you're feeding them good food or bad food, they'll start to flourish right away. And so generally, most people will say, well, I just don't really like Brussels sprouts, or I don't like fish, or I don't like this healthy food. And, I just want to eat my Cheetos, my Doritos, because that's just what I crave. I just don't like anything else. And, I was kind of in that boat a little bit. I hated fish. I really never wanted to eat it. But I was like, gosh, they have all these omega-3s, and I know it's healthy, and I got to do it. And, this is just in the last few years. And I just gotta bite the bullet and do it. And so I started eating fish, and really after about, 2-3 weeks of eating fish, I actually wanted fish. So then I had a craving for it. And so my microbes had switched over to the point where the microbes who like fish were predominating. And so there's an interesting story about this. I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but the way that they found toxoplasmosis. You may have heard of toxoplasmosis. Most women have being pregnant. The doctors tell you to stay away from cat litter because cat litter has toxoplasmosis in it, and it's a microorganism that can cause birth defects in babies. Yeah. And so most people
be a little more adrenaline addicted, like you
have
less of a higher risk tolerance, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It does take away some of your inhibitions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she did this study where she put out 4 containers of liquid, and she had the rats, go out there and explore these containers. And she found that almost always they would avoid cat urine without ever being exposed to a cat. Like they were lab rats, and so they'd never had that encounter before. So, but inevitably there would be 1 or 2 out of every group that were attracted to the cat urine. And so she was so perplexed by this that she decided that she would dissect the brains and look in there. And inside these rats' brains, she found toxoplasmosis. And so toxoplasmosis actually can only reproduce inside of felines. And so it's so interesting that these rats would be attracted to cat urine, would put them in peril where they would end up getting eaten by a cat, and the toxoplasmosis would then be inside the cat and be able to reproduce.
Yeah.
Right. So essentially, the toxoplasmosis was influencing these rats' cravings.
Yeah, almost like you hear about zombie things with plants or other animals all the time, but like this is another similar, adjacent to type scenario. You see it in a few of them though. There's like that one with ants, and then there's another one I think that's with frogs. It's a very similar thing where it's like they do something completely out of character intentionally to let this parasite reproduce.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And so these microbes are producing chemical signals. They travel up to the brain. They say, "Hey, you feed me, Seymour." So
toxoplasmosis lives in the intestine.
It does live in the it travels around the body. Like she found it in the brain, right? It can go through the placenta, so it's in the blood, and it's going through the placenta into the uterus for the babies, and so it does tend to migrate into the brain, and that's where it tends to cause problems in newborns. But so the microbes are sending these chemical signals that make us crave things, and so that's why you crave Doritos, is because you've developed this microbiome in your body that survives, or the microbes that are predominant, like the Doritos.
Yeah.
And so once you change the diet, over the course of a couple of weeks, your microbes are all going to change. You'll definitely feel that. You'll feel the upset in the stomach, the cramping, maybe bloating or gas or whatever it might be, while your microbes are kind of engaging in new battles and fights down in there. They'll duke it out, and they'll come out with a different microbiome composition.
Can you lose microbiome? Like, can you lose a bacteria that you need completely? Yeah. And how would you get that back?
So a lot of people are deficient in keystone microorganisms. Akkermansia is a very classic example of this. It's called Akkermansia muciniphilus, and so this microbe is very important for developing the mucus layer that goes over the lining of the intestine. And this mucus layer, it might sound kind of gross, but at the same time, it actually performs a very important function, which it traps toxins and things that aren't supposed to pass the lining of the intestine and get inside the body. So it'll trap it in the mucus, and then the mucus will flow out of the body in the stool. So in a lot of people, that mucus layers become very thin or non-existent because they essentially they don't have the Akkermansia anymore. So whether that's because of microbes in the food that they're eating, or different toxins in the environment, or whatever it is, maybe they've given an unfair advantage to some of the competitors with Akkermansia, and it's essentially non-existent. And so the Akkermansia, if you can introduce that with a probiotic, which you can cause that to grow. It's hard to eliminate a microbe entirely, but you can essentially limit it to the point where it's non-functional.
Yeah.
And so there are different supplements that you can take, like from pomegranate and other things, that will cause the Akkermansia to flourish. So it'll give them a little more of a competitive edge. And so then it can start to grow back. But it's very important for developing and maintaining that mucus layer. And, that's very important for keeping your immune system under control, for decreasing autoimmunity and other factors.
Yeah. So when you talk about probiotics, I know there's a lot of probiotic type foods. Is every probiotic the same?
So not every probiotic is the same. So it sounds like what you're talking about is prebiotics. Prebiotics are foods that your bacteria eat. And so prebiotics would be like fructooligosaccharides, complex carbohydrates. There's fiber. Okay. These are prebiotics. Modified citrus pectin. These kinds of things will be food for your microbes. So that's a prebiotic. Probiotic is a capsule that has some microbes in it. And you take that, and then the idea is that you get the benefits of it, although it doesn't tend to reseed the intestines very well when you take it. So you have to keep using the probiotic.
But you can get probiotics in foods like kombucha or...
Oh, okay, probiotic foods. So there's... Yes. Okay, that's what you're talking about. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
So the kimchi, these are fantastic. These are fermented foods that are, paleo foods, things that people have been doing for hundreds of years. And they're very, very helpful. They also have, besides the bacteria themselves, or probiotics of whatever flavor, they've got different chemical compounds, because the bacteria degrade the food. And so they're kind of like little factories, the bacteria are. So you give them something and they produce something else.
Right.
So like we talked about, you might give one bacteria its food and it produces a neurotransmitter. So in the fermented foods, they're eating the cabbage and the other things in there. It produces things like putrescine, and there's multiple other different chemicals in there that they produce, or nutrients really, that your body needs. And so it does provide a very healthy environment for your microbes and a lot of nutrients. So yeah.
So when you're trying to get those, should you be trying to get some of all of them?
The different foods.
Different. Like I'm guessing
Yeah. So
is different than
yeah, definitely. So there are going to be different microbes in each one, and it's better, honestly, if you were to do it yourself. To be perfectly honest, I think so. I mean, that's how people used to do it.
Yeah.
And so we put our food in the hands of other people, and they do stuff to it that we don't want it to do, but they have to do it in order to survive long enough to reach our table, right? But if we were doing it ourselves, which is the gold standard, I mean, that's the healthiest way to eat. If we prepared our own food, then we would derive much more nutrition from it. But that being said, there are different microbes in there. They generally, what happens with a lot of foods, you get your pastured milk. They put it in super high heat so that it kills all the microbes. So then they have to add microbes back in.
Yeah.
So, right.
Process.
Yeah, it's exactly. Crazy. So, and it's so interesting. I had a companion on my mission who was from this little town out in the middle of nowhere, Mexico. He'd never seen a fork, a spoon, a knife. He ate always just with a tortilla. He'd only ever had milk from a cow. Had never even seen a carton of milk before. So he came into the mission and he drank a carton of milk and he vomited. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not.
So it's different.
You hear it often the other way around too. Like if you go from pasteurized milk to raw milk, I mean, a lot of people say you shouldn't do that. They're like, don't do it. You're going to get sick. And you will potentially get a little sick, but in the end, it's going to be better for you. You're going to have a better use of the nutrients, I think. Yeah.
Well, and I agree with you. And it's sad that it says that it's not safe for human consumption.
Yeah.
What have people been doing for thousands of years?
Yeah.
Why all of a sudden now is it not safe for human consumption? And so, but the milk is completely different. The proteins are different. The fats are different. The immunoglobulins are different. There's immunoglobulins in milk that are very kind of fragile. And once you expose those to high heat, they're destroyed. But these immunoglobulins are really important for calming the immune response to the dairy. You get people who have all sorts of dairy allergies, and we wonder why, because we destroyed those immunoglobulins. We're exposing them to proteins that aren't native really to milk per se. They're changed chemically. It's kind of like if you took an egg and you look at it, it's got clear and yellow, right? You put it on the heat, you put it on the frying pan, it turns white. And so you have this chemical reaction that occurs because of the heat. The same protein that was in the egg and went in the shell is a different protein that you're eating off the frying pan because it's been changed chemically. And so same thing happens with the dairy, except we're not really used to temperatures of, they're super high temperatures to get rid of these bacteria because they don't want it to sit there for 5 hours. They got to do it fast. And so they put it really high. And so it denatures proteins, causes different proteins essentially to form inside the milk that aren't natural and our bodies they're not accustomed to.
And then on top of that, they'll take out the fat and, give you a 2% in skim and all these other things that's like you're just making it into nothing.
Yeah,
it's useless now.
Right. And the cream from the milk is very high in butyrate, which butyrate is a short chain fatty acid that is essential for your gut microbes. That's it's their food is essentially the short chain fatty acids, the butyrate. So butyrate's really high in butter, ghee. It's also in the milk. We're changing these things. We think we're so advanced and we're making all this progress, but then we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and you wonder why. And we're really changing things from the natural form that was given to us in. And so if we went back to that, we would be in much better shape. I'm not saying that we should never use antibiotics or anything. You know, that's a wonderful advancement that we've made. And you know, if you have strep throat, you have appendicitis, you have something else that needs antibiotics or surgery, please go get that done. You know,
Definitely.
yeah. But on a routine basis, you know, this is. There's a much healthier way to eat than what we're being told in general, and I'm grateful for, you know, Kennedy doing the food pyramid. He's starting to push us in the right direction.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I think it'll be better. It'll get better. You know, I think with more time and stuff. But I know you've mentioned the paleo diet a few times. Is that like your preferred?
So I do like paleo and I do like keto. So keto paleo is where we hang out. That's the diet that I recommend to most people. Of course, it's going to be a little bit different than what people think is keto and paleo. And you don't want to be in ketosis all the time. That's actually not good for you. But it's important for you to be in ketosis for at least part of the day. So, as part of the diet, it's not only about what you're eating specifically, but about timing. Timing is very important. So if you intermittent fast, that pays huge dividends. So not only not only does providing nutrients in a positive way impact your microbiome, but taking away nutrients also is another factor that affects the growth of microbes. And so the yeast and things like the carbs and the quick sugars, they don't do quite as well in that setting. They don't survive quite as well. So anyway, that also changes your hormones when you don't eat. So if you fast for a period of time, you have to fast for about 12 hours before your insulin levels start to go down. And there was actually a researcher at Harvard back in the days before they had insulin or any kind of other medication to treat diabetes. He found that if he had people with type 2 diabetes fast, he could actually cure them from diabetes just by fasting. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously probably weren't eating as much carbs and stuff when they were eating off the fast, and so it's different now to some extent. But
yeah,
so
absolutely.
Still, you know, that's an awesome thing to discover. I wish more people knew that.
Yeah. Oh, so important. So, and there's all sorts of other benefits that kick in, like after 24 hours, 36 hours of fasting, your body starts to go through autophagy. It starts to, for those who don't know what autophagy is, your body essentially is constantly under construction. And if we're always building something and you never cleaned anything up, you can only imagine how cluttered it would get, how difficult it would be. Like if your home was like that and you had things everywhere, beams, boards, nails, things just laying around all over the house, I mean, it would be a disaster. It would definitely slow down your focus and your, it would slow you down. So by doing autophagy, essentially what you're doing is going through the house and you're cleaning it up. So you're getting rid of all of the nails and the boards and everything else, all the organelles that are falling apart and whatnot, and you're replacing them with new ones. So it's a very important process. And we don't get it a lot because we're just not eating healthy, or we're not going through periods where we're constantly eking.
That's the thing. Like whether anybody wants to admit it or not, we're in a gluttonous society with food. You know, like you might be eating only whole food, but even that, people are gluttonous a lot of the time. You know, they're eating way more than necessary. Way more often than necessary.
Right. And even different foods during different times of seasons are important. Our bodies got used to, eating grains and whatnot earlier in the year. You got the barley harvest that came first. And then it wasn't really until the end of the summertime and into the fall where you started to see fruit come out. So, people never ate fruit until the fall because it actually bulks you up when you eat a lot of fruit. That sugar tells your body it's a signal that the winter's coming and you need to put on some extra fat stores because we're going to be in for lean times. So, then winter comes around, you don't have as much to eat, and you have you're eating more meat and whatnot. So, but we don't do that now. We eat fruit whenever we want to. We eat meat whenever we want to.
That's kind of what I mean. Like we buy strawberries and blueberries and raspberries every time we go to the store.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
They're always there. So,
you're right.
And that's something my wife would talk about. Like maybe we should cut back certain times of the year because we already are trying to do that with other food groups. We're like, let's try and seasonally eat more
Mm-hmm.
appropriately. But
Yeah, yeah,
it's hard, you know.
and these fruits, they're not grown here, right? Berries don't grow in the wintertime, so we're shipping them from across the world, and there is an effect on the nutritional quality of the food being delayed to your table. So it may have been picked a month ago, and it showed up on your table a month later, and it's going to be lacking the nutrients that it would have had if it were fresh.
And that's hard because who can say eating fruit is a bad thing?
Uh-huh.
Like that's hard to be like, no, that's wrong.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
But it totally is. Like, it's totally
Yeah.
something that we shouldn't be doing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I totally agree.
no, interesting. Yeah, I've been doing keto this whole month.
Mm-hmm.
First time I've ever done it, but it's for that same reason. Like I was like, we probably should do it because of the reset of like your appetite and everything else that comes with doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, probably commonly our species would have done this through the winter. So I'm going to take a month and try it through the winter and just see what happens.
Yeah.
See how it goes and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
so it's been interesting to go through that and see.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be honest, we haven't really got into the cycling of our food quite yet at my house, but we do. We do the paleo keto ourselves, and it's made a huge difference for us. Really, I mean, cutting out certain foods in general are probably going to be really important for a lot of people. Just on an autoimmunity or even for an inflammation standpoint, even if it is something that could be considered healthy. So some people, like my wife, she responds very strongly to dairy. If you were to get the right dairy, like something healthy like we talked about, and to eat that, then most people would do better with it. But she can't take any of it. So it's important to listen to your body when you're eating food, and don't eat foods that trigger your symptoms or cause you to feel worse, which sometimes is a little bit tricky because it can take a day or two before it kicks in.
What it was.
It's hard to make that association.
Yeah, it's oftentimes that when people are trying to go down this road of seeing what is actually affecting them, they have to eventually just cut out everything and then feed in one thing at a time and see what's actually happening, because it's so hard to tell if you're eating such a variety like we do.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
that's awesome. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and all the Jello and stuff that we do at church, Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like we're poisoning ourselves. We're like, oh, I love you so much. Here's all this sugar that's going to poison you.
Everybody's like, we're going to do a youth group activity. Let's go get some donuts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we all love it, but it's causing us to get hurt and have autoimmune diseases. Yeah. Christmas is another thing. Totally. You just pile on the sugar during Thanksgiving and Christmas.
From Halloween to Christmas, I feel like everything's junk food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Next year, I'm going to hand out celery.
Yeah. No one's going to come to your house.
That's right. Yeah. They'll hate me. They'll probably throw eggs at me.
Yeah. Are there baked goods? Like, do you include bread in your diets often for people, or is that something that you prefer to cut out a lot of the time?
Well, the top two biggest problematic foods are going to be dairy and gluten.
Okay.
So, just on the surface, it's probably, if you're having any kind of immune disease. And by the way, I have to make this disclaimer. Nothing that I say here is considered medical advice specifically for any person. This is just information, educational information about medical topics. So, please discuss anything with your physician before you do anything. But yes, in general, gluten should just be taken out. If you're having an autoimmune issue, I would take out dairy and gluten right at the beginning and see how you feel. So you may feel a little bit better. You may feel all the way better. But it's kind of, autoimmune diseases are kind of like sitting on tacks. So if you're sitting on 5 tacks and you took 2 out, you probably feel a little bit better, but not a lot, right? So until you get the last one out, then that's finally when you're going to start to feel better. Right. And so it requires a lot of investigation. Foods are going to be a big part of it for most people. Food is a huge part. And so tracking your triggers, trying to figure out, making that connection between the foods and your symptoms is probably the biggest thing that anybody could do.
Yeah.
and starting with dairy and gluten. So that being said, we do have grains, and if you're okay with eating dairy and gluten, it's probably okay to have healthy dairy and healthy levels of gluten. I wouldn't have a lot of gluten because even in like places like Italy, that's one of the blue zones. They eat a lot of fish, sardines, anchovies. They eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. They're kind of the model people in a lot of ways, but a lot of these people in Italy will have arthritis, and it's because of the gluten, because they eat a lot of bread as well. Yeah. And so the gluten tends to accumulate in the joints, and it causes a lot of joint pains.
Interesting.
Yeah. Besides the other things, I mean, it causes all sorts of problems.
Yeah, just lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about like so one of the diets that we've done a lot in our home is just like my wife was a bodybuilder for a long time, so it's a lot of like rice, chicken, fish, and vegetables. What do you think about, like, are you going to have people, like, I know you're fixing issues that are wrong with people, but if someone comes to you that is trying to build muscle and grow in that aspect, do you change the diet often for those types of scenarios, or is that something that is in your purview, or do you kind of just focus on people with issues?
So we do some longevity as well. So like not only do we deal with the autoimmune, but we also look into longevity, like we talked about earlier, muscle mass being very important with that. And so you want to do things that encourage it. So if you are actually working out heavily, you really need to bump up your proteins. And so there are branched chain amino acids that are very important also for your muscle growth, especially as guys get a little older, and women too. You get some sarcopenia. So, and women, it oftentimes goes unrecognized because women aren't supposed to be buff, but it's more noticeable in guys. As you get older, the muscle mass goes down. But by using some of these branched chain amino acids, you can kind of wake up your muscles to give them the signal it's time to start doing something. It's time to hypertrophy and get bigger. But you can't only just use the branched chain amino acids. You got to get out there and work. Right. So you got to have like a pretty regular exercise routine, but to grow that muscle, you need the protein.
Yeah. Do you do anything with like red light therapy or saunas or cold plunges, things of that nature? What is your take on those types of things?
Yeah, so red light therapy is fantastic. And so it's really important to get the red light. You can get that in the morning and in the night when the sun's going down and coming up. But the red light is like a supercharger for your mitochondria. And so a lot of these toxins that make it into the body, they interfere with the mitochondria's function. And so if you're not familiar with what the mitochondria are essentially the powerhouse of the cell. That's what you learn in middle school or high school, right? So, but if you can imagine, that's essentially like a battery. If your battery is fully charged, you feel great and you're out there running around doing all sorts of stuff and you feel fantastic. But when the batteries start to go down, then you start to notice problems. Like, oh, I feel depressed. I feel anxious. I can't cope with this situation. My heart's not working as well. Essentially you get all these problems that come about when your mitochondria aren't working. And it tends to affect the brain and the heart first because those are the most energy intensive organs. So by getting the red light, it supercharges those mitochondria. So that's one of the things that's very important for them. It can take care of all sorts of problems, skin issues, obviously, but more than that, it's important for autoimmunity in general, but not just the light itself, but the sweating is very important. So you get the red light sauna is a great combination. So you can eliminate toxins from the body in various different ways. You can breathe them out. You can, they come out in the urine, they come out in the stool, but sweat is actually a very important way to get rid of toxins. And, if you're inactive and you're sitting down and you're just clicking the TV and somebody's bringing your food, and like we talked about earlier, you're not sweating at all. And so you're losing out on all that benefit. So it's really important to get out there, exercise, go in the sauna. You can almost get as good of results with exercise, almost. So I'm not saying to replace exercise, but you can get very impressive results from doing a red light sauna and, getting all the toxins out in the sweat.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you can get rid of heavy metals, you get rid of pesticides, herbicides, all this stuff that's in our environment. Almost all of it will come out through the skin.
Oh, that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And then what about cold plunges? Do you do anything with cold plunges or?
So we don't necessarily have a cold plunge right now. We do have the red light sauna, but yeah, that's something that we are looking into. Next to where we're at, there's another place that has cold plunges, and so we may just kind of piggyback there, kind of try to work collaboratively with them. But yes, my wife likes more of the cold plunges. I still haven't got to the point where I can get myself into the cold water. It just never liked the cold water. Put me in a sauna, I'll take it. Put up to almost as hot as you want. I'll just sit in there and sweat. But yeah, the cold water, I have a hard time with it. But it is very good. It is very good. And for women, you have to do it a little bit different from men. The stressors on the women, they don't like to have as big of a shock as the men do. Yeah. So you have to be careful from that standpoint if you're a woman.
Especially with like a small one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have to really watch what they're doing with it and make sure they're appropriately cold plunging.
And intermittent fasting is a little bit different for women as well. It's better for them to eat in the morning, fast at night. There's also, you know, as far as other kind of modalities, vitamin D lights, that's very good. So there's, you know, supplements are fantastic. And if you are deficient in vitamin D, you definitely need to be taking vitamin D supplement. And even if you're not deficient, it's probably a good idea to take it anyway, because we just don't get enough sunlight. We're indoors.
Especially through the winter.
Yeah, especially through the winter. And so it's better to get vitamin D naturally, or at least by your body producing the vitamin D rather than taking it as a supplement. There are some problems that can arise. Sometimes the vitamin D supplements will cause calcium deposits in the blood vessels. There's ways to get around that. You can add vitamin K in there and that'll clear that up. But, you know, it's not quite natural. And so it's better pretty much always to get something natural. So you can get a light that will produce vitamin D levels in just minutes. Like it'll just produce large amounts of vitamin D.
Is that just like a typical grow light for plants or?
No, you have to. It's a specific one. Yeah, you'd have to look it up. Like we have one of those, and you know, it's something that we're going to start using as well. So there's that. Hyperbaric oxygen can be very helpful. So those are kind of more the typical modalities of other things to do.
Yeah. So how do you? I mean, you don't have to give all your trade secrets away and everything, but how do you deal with stress in people's lives and things that are not directly affected by eating and exercise and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. Just coping with life in general. Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot about mindset. And so there's a lot that people can do. Meditation is very important. Prayer is very important for people. You know, there's you know, various different techniques that we use, but we do tend to focus a lot on meditation. And we tend to build up a lot of negative thoughts. Like we have we're essentially like 10% conscious all throughout the day, and 90% of what we do is unconscious. Right. So for up until the time we're about 30, that's when that clicks in. And so there's a lot going on under the surface. And if we're not very cognizant of what's down there, then it can come out in various different ways. And it's really hard to make real change in your life without going into the operating system of the body and changing things systematically. Yeah. So really need to kind of sit down and think, okay, what is it right now that's making me anxious? Or why do I feel sad? Or why do I feel overwhelmed? What is it that's going on under the hood? And so, you know, what am I telling myself? What are my thoughts? What am I creating with that? You know, because our thoughts and our feelings, our thoughts, our words, our actions, they all kind of come together to produce some kind of end result. Yeah. And the more that those are all aligned with what we want, more powerful that will be. So if we could, you know, if we want to have peace, love, joy, beautiful things in our lives, then we need to focus on the feelings that produce those things. So we have to act out of those emotions. Yeah. We have to have our vision firmly planted. And so when we are meditating, we're thinking about, you know, what's going on underneath the hood. What do we really want in our life? You know, creating a vision of that, and then we want to go out and do it. And And so that's a big part of it. And God, you really can't eliminate God from the equation. There's been a lot of research on people who try to eliminate God from the equation, and they suffer from all sorts of mental health issues. It's been scientifically proven, article after article, that people who try to eliminate God and don't have that connection with God are at a great disadvantage. Our bodies just were not designed to work that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I also think that the majority of people, if not all, probably all people, really feel a better life and are more satisfied and happier when they include, the framework of morality that you get from God, and, the desire to help those around them and things like that. Like, those things really change you mentally and change you for the better in a way that you can't explain in any other way other than to say, this is what's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I have a hard time when people are like, I know a lot of people that have been Christians and everything, and then they've changed their mind and they're like, no, I'm not Christian anymore. I don't believe in that. I'm going on a different route. And it's like, you can see the problems come into their lives when they decide to not live just the moral framework, if nothing else, but as soon as that moral framework is deteriorated, they just become unhappy.
Right.
And there's so many times where I have family that are in that state right now, and I'm like, just think about how you were 20 years ago and think about how you are now and tell me that you're happier. Because I don't think you are. Like, from the outside looking in, you're definitely not happier.
Yeah.
But it's
absolutely,
we have this world now that just says, do what you want
and you'll be happy, which is a lie, really.
What you feel inside is what you really are, and just do what you want to do.
Yeah. And so, we just, we weren't really designed that way. And God teaches us the user guide for life. So if we throw that out and we try to run things on our own, we're going to run into problems. And it's not about whether you have problems or not have problems, because if you follow God's teachings and his outline for life, you're still going to have problems. It's just that you're going to be able to cope with them much better. So, and that's, you're equipped to fix it. And so you have a purpose for your suffering. You know that if you endure this well, then you're going to have a reward. And so that helps you to kind of keep things in perspective and, to see Jesus Christ be our example of that. His life was not easy. He went through all sorts of challenges and struggles. He drank from the bitter cup, but he was not bitter. And so when we become bitter and resentful, that discordance inside of ourselves causes an inability to be able to cope with life situations.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That's I see it in my life all the time. Like the more that I hold on to an anger or hold on to something that I'm just having inside of me, it creates like hardening almost is what it seems like, and like things become harder to influence, and things become harder to change externally, actions and words and things like that. So yeah, I completely agree with that, and I think it's huge to, we in our culture we don't really talk about meditation, and it's not like a big thing that we're like, you should sit and breathe this certain way and fold your arms or whatever. Like, meditation has a lot of things that people think it is, and that's not the case. And a lot of people do meditate in a lot of ways. They just don't realize that's what they're doing. And to bring light to that and say, look, this is what we're saying. We're not saying you need to go sit with the Dalai Lama.
Right.
You can.
Yeah.
That's fine. But that's not necessarily what I'm trying to connect with you on that.
Right. Yeah. So it could even be as simple as you're driving down the road and you're just really, thinking about life, or you've got a book that's making you really think, and before you realize that you're almost home and you're like, well, what happened in the last 10 minutes or half hour, you kind of get lost in this meditative state. So, but it is good to take a little bit of dedicated time, I think, before each day, really to kind of keep in mind what it is you want to create that day. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, where is your heart? Are you feeling grateful? If you're not, it's a good idea to start thinking about, all the things that you're grateful for. There are people out there who do that and they get to the point of tears is just so grateful for what they've been given. And really being grateful is the ultimate receivership, right? If you want to receive something in your life, if you're looking for something to come your way, be grateful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was super interesting. I was listening to a podcast and it had Matthew McConaughey on it, I think. And he was talking about this exact thing. And he's like, I think that really serving other people is selfish because you're doing it and you know it's going to help you in the end because you're going to feel better about it.
Yeah. Well, that's very true.
That's true. And I mean, obviously not true all at the same time, but like I completely agree with that setting.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
You know, and it always comes at a time when it's difficult, you know, when somebody is calling for help and they need it or whatever. And so you're like, it's not convenient. I don't want to do it right now. But inevitably you feel better after you help somebody.
Yeah. And it may not be the motivator at the time when you do it.
Yeah.
It might be just like, gosh, you know, I know what it's like to be like that. Mm-hmm. And that really sucks. I'm going to help that person. Yeah. But then you're like, yeah, I feel good. So, but you know, it's going to come and it'll be the reward. But I think that's what Christ means by when you lose yourself or when you lose your life, you'll find it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So it's a great feeling and I love it. But
yeah. Yep. That's huge for sure.
So what other aspects, any other aspects of this that you're,
nice.
You know?
Yeah. So, I mean, other things that we would do in our clinic. So we've got a couple of other things that we do besides the adjunctive therapies. The more recent thing that we're getting into is peptides. Okay. So yeah, peptides are actually more of something that's coming more and more to the awareness of people in general. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately is also becoming more and more aware to the FDA. Yeah. So, makes a big difference. Yeah, but these peptides are fantastic. I mean, they really are beneficial. So you may have heard stories, or maybe have not, but there are people like there was an Olympian who had damaged their Achilles tendon during the Olympics. They got an injection of some cocktail of peptides, and within a day or two, they were back out there winning medals.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Describe real quick what a peptide is.
So peptides are little amino acid sequences. So amino acids are parts of protein. They're like the building block of a protein. So if you took the protein down and you went smaller and smaller and smaller, you would end up with you would end up with a peptide, and then the smallest thing is going to be a amino acid. So that's like lysine or whatever, isoleucine. The branching amino acids. Yeah. People at the gym or EAAs. Yeah, exactly. Like so you put a few of those amino acids together, you got a peptide. Gotcha. So they can be variable lengths. Some can be very short. Some can be 100 or so long. And so these peptides, they go into the cell and they go into the DNA and they turn genes on and off. So, which is a very powerful thing. It's very hard to do that in a lot of ways. Food can actually do the same thing. So one way you could think about food is as a chemical signal for your body's DNA to turn genes on and off. But sometimes, like we talked about, it's a little hard to find the right foods. The nutrients aren't there like they used to be and whatnot. So these peptides are very helpful. So they'll go directly into the nucleus of a cell and it'll start turning on beneficial genes. So, for example, everybody's familiar, or probably most people have heard of insulin. Insulin is a peptide. Yeah. And so we know that has a very profound effect and an immediate effect in most cases. So the peptides like BPC157, that's a little bit more common. People have heard of that one. Semaglutide, people have heard of that. So there's other peptides out there that are very powerful, that are very, very beneficial in healing. There are several people who have talked about their arthritis or like an injury. They got hurt their shoulder. They got an injection of some BPC157. All of a sudden they're better. Like the pain's gone within a day or two. There's others who have been struggling with brain fog. To be honest with you, I, after COVID back in 2020, had some brain fog that just would not go away. And, despite what I was doing with my diet, I was being very clean and whatnot and exercising and doing all the right stuff, but I still had some brain fog that I could not get rid of. And so I tried tirzepatide, which is a peptide. It's kind of like semaglutide. It's a GLP-1. Yeah. And so, after I used that, my brain fog, like it was almost immediate. It just lifted and went away.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I know tirzepatide is big for weight loss and muscle growth. I think if I remember right, that's the
Uh-huh.
that's for that.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, it's for weight loss. So it's a GLP-1, so it affects your cravings and you tend to lose weight. So they oftentimes have like a series of benefits.
Yeah.
So they started off with the semaglutide being for diabetes,
Yeah.
but then they noticed, oh, it's making people thin.
Yeah.
And so then they noticed it also has some cognitive benefits and they have all these benefits.
Right.
So I have to be kind of skeptical when now they come out and they say, oh, maybe we shouldn't be using these peptides, because it almost makes me think, well, maybe they're a little too effective, you know?
You're getting rid of insulin.
Yeah, exactly. Cutting into some of the profits. So, but yeah, there's a whole slew of these, and they all have very powerful effects on different aspects of our health, whether that's our brain health or our gut health or our joints. And so, yes, we are using peptides as well. We also have coaching. So coaching is another thing that we are rolling out. We had been doing that at the beginning. As I mentioned, in Georgia, we were seeing wonderful results with our first couple of groups that we had there. And so we're rolling that out as well. We've got, it can be a little cost prohibitive for some people. So we actually, to help those people out, we have a Healing Circle is what it's called on Facebook, where, and on our website, where they would go through protocols and kind of just do it on their own.
Okay.
So kind of help fix their immune system, work on their gut, work on their brain, neurologic health, work on detox. These are all things that they could do through that program. And so that would be like $49 a month or something. But that's, we want to try to make, these services available for everybody, because I know what a difference it made for my wife and my family and my kids. And, you got people who always want to work with us, but they don't have a lot of money. And so we want to, widen this so that they can participate.
So with peptides, is that something that you're doing just for fixing things, or is that something like a healthier person could come in if they wanted to have a specific peptide? You'd work with them potentially on something.
Yeah,
like that?
absolutely. Okay. So there are some that improve longevity. There's one that's unfortunately the FDA got rid of, called epithalin, that it was actually shown to, they put it in one gentleman. It's just a case study. And then at the end of the year, they checked his telomere length, or his biological age, and he was actually biologically 8 years younger.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts. My brother-in-law's dipped a lot more into peptides than I have, but it's hard because, like right now, it's hard to know which ones are the right ones to pair with the other ones, and how often to use them, and what the dosage should be and stuff. And so, like, finding a resource of somebody that's professionally trained and does these things, that's big. So that's really nice.
Yeah, it does get a little tricky, because some of them will start to wear off over time. You start to lose the benefit, and then the body becomes resistant to it. So you have to use it in the right way.
Yeah, he's definitely gone through a few different sets of peptides trying to figure out what worked best, but he finally found the right pair, and man, it's great. It's been great for him. So I've been really impressed with peptides.
Yeah. I didn't really think much about it until I started using it myself, and I'm like, whoa. That is a huge benefit. It's like, I really like that.
And it's shocking. When did insulin come out? Do you know?
Oh, I can't remember exactly, but probably in the mid 1900s.
Yeah, so we knew about peptides to some extent then, but it seems like it's been, the last 10 years that they've had any kind of mass-produced peptide that you could just...
Right. But a lot of them have been studied for 20 years, even. And there was a guy in Russia who did a lot of research on them. And so they've been bigger outside of the country, and it's taken a little bit of time to trickle into here. But there's been a lot of research. A lot of it's been on animals as well, so you kind of have to be comfortable with that. But then there's a lot's been done on humans. A lot of, there are people all over the country who use peptides.
Yeah, that's great. It's a new, it seems pretty new. And it's going to be a great field, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, I think so, as long as the FDA doesn't put the kibosh on everything.
Hopefully things change with that, but hard to say.
Yeah, you never know.
It'll end up being one of those things you go to Mexico for once a year or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. I have a friend who's unfortunately their son is struggling with a neck injury, and there's a peptide that has been shown to be beneficial for neck trauma, but we don't use it here. So they have to go to Canada or Mexico.
Yeah. So you're going to maintain your MD throughout this? Is that your
Yeah.
plan? Or
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually a DO, so I'm
Oh.
Doctor of Osteopathy. It's used to mean more back in the early 1900s, but over time we've kind of converged where we do pretty much the same things. The DOs do still use manipulative medicine, kind of like chiropractors. In fact, chiropractors branched off from DOs at one point.
Okay.
So that's where that all came from. We have a common stem. But they kind of do only the manipulative medicine, whereas we do that kind of, and then we do what the other doctors are doing, the MDs.
Gotcha.
So, but in functional medicine, really it incorporates a lot of naturopathic medicine, is what I've noticed. So, a lot of the professors in these educational courses for the functional medicine are NDs.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, so what's your website and how can people get a hold of you?
So, Aging Backwards Wellness, and so there's a phone number there on the website.
Okay.
So it's a 678 number for Georgia. That's where we got the phone, but don't be confused. Yeah, but we'll be opening up the office, and we'll have a sign. We'll have a phone number for there in the future, and we can provide that to you. But the website is agingbackwardswellness.com.
Okay. And social media anywhere?
Wellness Warriors.
Wellness Warriors.
Yeah, on Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Thanks, everybody.